during the war. The war lasted when we entered Pearl Harbor, 7 December 1941, up till it ended in 1945. Well, this happened to have happened, this particular bomber, a B-24. Charles was on board that. He was a radio operator. He was on board a B-24 that was actually going to bomb some targets and airstrips over Hansa Bay, which is the northern coast of Papua New Guinea now, in Madang province. So once they started out, he actually was, their aircraft was actually the lead aircraft in the formation. And he had started out on his bombing run. He was the lead, their squadron leader, and the pilot broke off from the formation to start a bombing run, again for the targets there over the Hansa Bay. And when he did, the Japanese were shooting anti-aircraft fire from the ground, and they actually hit the aircraft. Well, when it hit the aircraft, it actually hit the number 2 engine on the bomber. And so he actually tried to turn left to get away and drop some of their bomb load because they were losing elevation. And then at the time that that happened, that is when they got hit again with the Japanese fire from the ground, and then it actually, the aircraft actually exploded in air, and it was dispersed. And so immediately thereafter, of course, you've got your P-38s that are out there that are actually escorting the bomber. You've got other bombers that were on their missions that when they saw the aircraft went down, of course, they're trying to follow it to some degree, especially the P-38s. That's your single-man aircraft that escorts the bombers. So they could see, and what they felt was five that they saw parachute out from the bomber. And then before it actually crashed. And then, however, we know later on, which we'll talk about, really there's only 4 that were actually known to have been captured and eventually executed by the Japanese that parachuted out from the particular aircraft. Although many of the reports at the end of the book, which is actually wonderful because you're having statements from pilots who were actually there, navigators who were of other aircraft that were actually there. So they're talking about that in a lot of the reports that are in the back of the book. So there you'll see a lot about the 5 parachutes, and there may have been. However, only 4 were actually, through all the reports and the investigations from all the locals at the time, back in the 40s, and from all the investigative that they went, you know, even in the 2000s where we've sent investigative teams out there, and you know how the folklore goes from generation down. All the local natives would say, yes, there was 4. There was 4 that were actually landed in our village, and 4 that we know or believed to have, been executed. And after, let's talk a little bit about those 4.